Ho, 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 ho. Zzz, zzz, zzz. Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming your way to review a relatively recent Christmas horror movie by the name of Christmas Bloody Christmas. So I think I became aware of this within the last year or so. I can't remember when it came out. It might be as recent as like 2022, 2023. Recently, within the last year, became aware of this because, as you might know, I've been doing a little was it iTunes / Apple TV movie and TV purchases on there in the last year or so, and that had come up for like $5, and I think it's maybe just $5 now, just for the duration or whatever. But I was like, I looked at the trailer and stuff, and I'm like, God, that looks, I'm a big fan of Christmas horror movies and stuff, so I'm like, this looks kind of cool. I kind of like how it looked in the color, with the colors and stuff. I can't remember if it might have been on Tubi, but for whatever reason, I never ended up watching it. I always planned to watch it someday. Then, lo and behold, it ended up on Netflix, so I'm like, well, I prefer watching it on Netflix with no ads, so I did end up getting around to watching it. I was honestly like hopeful that it'd be one of these, even though it was recent and well Shudder, I thought maybe since I like In a Violent Nature, maybe I'd like this because it's Shudder as well or whatever. But I was kind of hoping to like Christmas, Bloody Christmas, so I watched it for the first maybe and last time last night on Netflix, and I'm like, oh man, so. Right off the bat, the movie is really, I figured because it's so short, like 80 minutes or somewhere along there, that it'd go by pretty quick, and if it was any good, it'd be like, it'd feel like 30 minutes or whatever. It feels like 2 hours, honestly. And my biggest problem with Christmas, Bloody Christmas, oh my God, it basically just revolves around this chick, this blonde chick, maybe 30-ish or something, who's, I guess, the owner of this, like, retro vinyl, maybe they sell VHS, maybe audio cassettes, just kind of a retro media kind of place. I think she's the owner or whatever, and the whole movie revolves around it's Christmas Eve and it's always fake snowing, and you kind of honestly get sick of the fake snow that's like falling, and it's like I guess it never really accumulates on the ground except maybe towards the end and stuff. It's starting to accumulate or actually pile up on cars, all this fake ass snow and stuff. But yeah, it's just the movie takes place on Christmas Eve, and they after a slam bang day of business at this chick's retro vinyl record VHS just media kind of a place. They close up, and this woman has some date with some guy. She wants to just get get laid, and it's almost like it's not surprising these days, but it's almost like this character was actually originally written as a man, and at some point we're like, let's have this character be a woman, and but we'll keep her the male sex drive thing kind of and just have it we'll keep that and just have it be a woman. But I absolutely found the main character of this woman and the guy, the employee that's in the first third of the movie with her or whatever, absolutely repugnant. And it's because I'm if I may say, I'm a little more of a classy person and not one of these people who fucking has to use the word fucking in every fucking other word I say has to be fucking. I mean, I'm not opposed to fucking swearing, but Jesus Christ, when every effing word, see, I can't even do any more effins, when every effing word, every other effing word is effing, it's just, oh my God. This might be one of the most, the movie that has the most curse words in it that I've ever seen, and it actually became nauseating the first like 10 or 15 minutes, just with just all the like the vocal obscenities that are just, oh my God. And it's just like, oh, and you watch this movie and you're like, God, I'm glad I'm nearly 50, because it's just like, is this what it's like? I mean, it was never what it was like to be a young person for me, just swearing every other word or whatever. But anyway, I found the first, whatever you want to call it, third or whatever, before stuff really starts happening, where you're just like kind of just filler, before all of the special effects and stuff kind of starts happening with these two main characters to just be repugnant. And oh my God, just these people are such assholes and stuff, and this woman wants to just get laid. She's gonna find this guy on this dating site, and the male employee is like, why don't you fuck me, or why don't I take you out? And they end up, oh, it's also one of these. I've never been a drinker. I don't use drugs. I don't drink and stuff. So I've always, and I've been that way my entire life, and even back when me and Keith were making horror movies in the early 90s and stuff on Fisher-Price PXL 2000 video camera, I would always mock I'd always be the kind of like Charlie Chaplin, how he mocked the alcoholism in his movies. It was a therapeutic way to deal with having had an alcoholic for a father. But I've never had an alcoholic for a father or a drug addict for a father. But for some reason, it was so much in the culture and stuff that I was, as a teenager, I was always like a drunk or using drugs just to kind of mock it. The whole, I just always, ever since I was a teenager, I always found the whole culture around just drinking and drug use just to be so pathetic and just glorifying it, and meanwhile it just ruins so many people's lives.
What a day to drink. Well, and spit. Oh, mama. I wonder where I'm gonna get some more booze. Oh.
That's another thing about these characters. Everything about these characters, this owner of this retro shop and the male employee and stuff, they're just like, okay, well, let's just, he kind of talks her into going out on a date and coming home with her and drinking and doing drugs and all this shit that they do. And there's this oh my god, normally it's a sex scene, I don't even know how to say it. Normally a sex scene in a movie in the good old 70s or the 80s, a horror movie, is actual sex versus oral. And in this movie, the sex scene is like an oral sex. We'll just say the employee oral sexes his female boss, maybe, and by her reaction, maybe he gets another bonus, because I think he's going to get a bonus because business was so great that day, and $2,000 or $4,000 or whatever they say the receipts were for that day. So maybe he's got a bonus on top of a bonus for his his performance and giving his female manager, or her female boss, owner of the retro shop, satisfactory oral sex. So yeah, this movie is just from out the gate just kind of depraved. And I've said it before, as I'm pushing 50, it's like I'm taming down a bit, and I'm not so into gratuitous gore necessarily. I talked about that in my review of Blood Diner and stuff. And as I push 50, I'm not so much into just the trauma-esque nonsense of Blood Diner or whatever. But yeah, so the whole premise, and I like the premise. It's and I like how the movie starts with the little ads for this and that, and informing the viewer that this Santa Claus, animatronic, military-grade Santa Claus or whatever, and it seems that the movie is just filled with so much, at the first half of it or whatever, 30 minutes, non-stop top banter between this bitch and this guy, this asshole employee, that it's nauseating. They can't even just have a minute of silence. It's non-stop banter. But it's possible that at some point we heard something either on the news or from one of them that the animatronic Santas, military grade animatronic Santas, maybe have been supposed to have been recalled or whatever. But anyway, to make a long story or a long review not as long, the animatronic, they have a couple of friends down the way who have a toy store, who are also sex crazed maniacs who have sex in the toy store and may or may not get sexual juices on toys that they sell to kids. It's just, goddamn, this movie's depraved or whatever. And so they got one of these military-grade animatronic Santas, which ends up running amok and killing. And I will say I like the idea of the animatronic Santa running amok, military, and just for shits and giggles, we'll just have it be military-grade, animatronic. Well, why? Well, why not? That's why, because for the movie's purposes, it can be shot and it'll never die, and that's why we're going to make it in the movie military grade animatronic Santa. But it should be said that, for the record, I like that premise of the military grade animatronic Santa running amok. But like just pretty much everything else about it I don't like. And one thing that I will say about this movie, and this was very apparent obviously in the trailer and the Blu-ray.com screenshots and stuff, and I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it for the duration of the whole movie, and I still necessarily not sure how I feel about it. The movie's visual appearance just being so ridiculously, almost grotesquely colorful is kind of interesting, and I still don't know if this movie, it looks like it's shot on film, and in the closing credits it said something about possibly being shot on film. And I will say, if this is actually shot on film, that's pretty amazing, with most, being a low-budget movie and most actual A movies being shot digitally. But regardless of what it was shot on, I do think at the end of the day, I more like the look of this than dislike it. At some points, you do feel like it's color fatigue in a way, because the whole movie is this just bright colors, reds, greens, whatevers. I think it's probably mostly reds and greens. But so bright colors, it's almost, too much. And if a person wanted to, I guess they could turn down saturation on their TV. But yeah, I think more or less, that's one of the reasons I was kind of hoping to like this movie, is because, during the holiday times and stuff, it's no secret that I'm a fan of, like, the Christmas lights and stuff. And I like, seeing that. I go for walks and stuff and look at people at night and Christmas lights and stuff during that, or I should say this time of year and stuff. And I was hoping to like this movie because I kind of liked how it looked, and I'd say more or less I do like how it looked. But Jesus, if you've got some kind of as I said, yeah, if you're sensitive to colors, you're not going to be able to watch this. And even me, I found myself almost, God, this might be too colorful to watch. But it's an interesting look, and not a lot of movies that I've seen have this just over-saturated, insane, just color palette. So that was kind of interesting. And honestly, I'd say the last half or the last third was my favorite. When obviously when the Santa Claus, military grade animatronic Santa Claus, really just starts running amok. And one thing I found kind of pleasant, or pleasantly funny, is there's several occasions, more than once, maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the last half of this movie, where they're throwing dummies. They even kill a little kid, hoping for Christmas presents and stuff, and they end up throwing a dummy around that's supposed to have been his corpse, and other dummies are thrown around and stuff. So like the last half, I guess, kind of Santa Killer Mayhem, or Robot Santa Killer Mayhem, is relatively kind of fun in a way. And the very last bunch of minutes, where it reminded me very much of Class of 1999, where some of them robots get absolutely destroyed, and for the purposes of the movie, they're actually they actually have a kind of an animatronic robot with skin hanging off it in Class of 1999, kind of for the last portions of that movie. They do the same thing with the last portions of this movie, where they actually have some kind of presumably animatronic torso or something that's all destroyed and this and that. And the thing that happens when the face is destroyed and the green laser things are shooting out, and that's a really cool look. And it's just a bummer that this movie is so nasty, like the first half of it or whatever, and the characters suck so much that there's no way I want to own this in any capacity, Blu-ray or digital. It's just like, just the grotesqueness of the movie, like the first half, just with the characters and the exploits, and just alcohol and drug induced oral sex stuff. It's just like, yeah, it's kind of depraved. I guess maybe I've said my piece for Christmas, Bloody Christmas. I was hopeful that it could be something that I liked enough to. I think the Blu-ray's only like $12 or something. I was kind of hoping it'd be good enough where I could get the Blu-ray and maybe watch it every now and then this time of year. But alas, it's it's a little too whatever. I don't even know what you call it. Just too infantile, or just nasty for my taste. My star rating for Christmas, Bloody Christmas, I guess I can go as high as 1 star out of 4 stars for Christmas, Bloody Christmas. It's mainly because of, I do think its visual appearance with all of its just crazy color is actually kind of interesting. And the last, the last half with the mayhem with the, robot Santa running amok, the last half of the movie with that going on was entertaining. And kudos for actual some possible real life, maybe non-CG explosion and maybe non-CG fire stuff, and they pulled off in this movie and stuff. So yeah, it's all that stuff is what enables me to give it as high as 1 star out of 4 stars. If you can see it for free on Tubi, TV.com, maybe do it, but be warned, if you're like me and kind of not so keen on just like the nastiness of these asshole kind of people, yeah, if you're more, I don't know, yeah, I mean, and the thing that kind of worries me is that, like, people like that probably exist too, and it's just like, oh my God. So that's kind of why I don't really know anybody, because I'd rather not really know anyone than know people like that. So I guess that pretty much does it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, we'll catch you on the next video.